The smoke was still rising from the crashed ship when Hana found them. She had been running through the colony's outer district for 20 minutes trying to reach the evacuation point. The Viral had come without warning. Their ships appeared in the sky just after sunrise, and within an hour, Baekdu Station was burning. Hana pressed herself against a concrete wall as another explosion shook the ground. Her breath came in short gasps, visible in the freezing air. She needed to keep moving. The evacuation shuttles would not wait forever, but something made her stop. A sound, soft and desperate, whimpering. She turned toward the wreckage of what looked like a small transport vessel. The metal hull was torn open, exposing the interior. Smoke poured from the engines. Hana knew she should keep running. Every second mattered. But her feet moved toward the crash site instead. Inside the wreckage, she found them. Two small creatures huddled together behind a collapsed bulkhead. They were covered in gray fur that seemed too thin for the cold. Their eyes were large and golden, filled with terror. They looked like wolf pups, but they were clearly not from Earth. These were Rukai. Hana had seen pictures of them in the xenobiology database. They were an allied species, traders and explorers. But she had never seen Rukai children before. The cubs whimpered when they saw her. The larger one, probably the older sibling, pushed the smaller one behind its body. It was trying to protect its brother or sister. Hana's heart broke a little. These children had just watched something terrible happen. She could see bodies in the front of the ship. Adults. Probably their parents. "It's okay," Hana whispered, even though she knew they could not understand her words. She made her voice as soft as possible. "I won't hurt you." She took a slow step forward. The cubs trembled but did not run. They had nowhere to go. Hana could hear shouting in the distance. The Vral soldiers were getting closer. She had to make a choice. Leave the cubs and save herself, or risk everything to help them. It was not really a choice at all. Hana unbuttoned her thermal coat and opened it wide. "Come here," she said gently. "I'll hide you. I'll keep you safe." The older cub stared at her for a long moment. Then slowly it nudged the smaller one forward. They crawled out from behind the bulkhead, moving on all fours. They were smaller than Hana expected, maybe the size of large dogs. When they reached her, they pressed against her legs, shaking with fear and cold. Hana wrapped the coat around them, holding it closed with one arm. The cubs curled against her body, seeking warmth. She could feel their rapid heartbeats against her ribs. "Stay quiet," she whispered. "Stay very quiet." She stepped out of the wreckage and started walking toward the agricultural dome. The evacuation point was in the opposite direction, but she could not risk going there now. The Vral would be watching the shuttles. They would search everyone. If they found the cubs, they would take them. Hana had heard stories about what the Vral did with alien specimens. She would not let that happen to these children. The streets were chaos. People ran in every direction. Some carried belongings, others just ran with empty hands. Buildings burned. The air smelled like chemicals and death. Hana kept her head down and walked quickly, but not too quickly. Running would draw attention. A Vral soldier stepped into her path. He was tall, maybe 7 feet, with dark green scales and yellow eyes. He carried a weapon that looked like a rifle but hummed with energy. "Stop," he said in broken human language. "Where you go?" Hana's blood went cold, but she forced herself to stay calm. "The medical center," she said. "I'm a doctor." "People are hurt. It was a lie." She was a xenobiologist, not a medical doctor. But the Vral soldier did not know that. He looked at her coat, which was bulging strangely. "What you carry?" "Medical supplies," Hana said. Her voice was steady even though her heart was racing. "Bandages and medicine." The soldier stared at her. Inside the coat, one of the cubs shifted slightly. Hana held her breath. If the soldier asked to see inside the coat, it was over. She would not be able to fight him. She would not be able to run. Then another explosion echoed through the colony. The soldier's communication device crackled with angry voices. He spoke in his own language, harsh and guttural. Then he waved Hana away. "Go, fast!" Hana did not need to be told twice. She walked past him, forcing herself not to run. Every step felt like it took an hour. She could feel the soldier's eyes on her back. But then she turned a corner and he was gone. The agricultural dome was at the edge of the colony. It was a huge structure filled with crops and livestock providing food for the station. Hana had worked there sometimes, collecting plant samples for her research. She knew there was an emergency bunker beneath the main building. If she could reach it, they might have a chance. She pushed through the dome's entrance. Inside it was warmer and darker. The artificial lights had failed, leaving only emergency strips glowing dimly. Plants grew in long rows, their leaves rustling in the ventilation currents. Hana hurried through the rows, her boots splashing in irrigation water. The bunker entrance was hidden beneath a storage shed. Hana found the hatch and pulled it open. Metal stairs led down into darkness. She climbed down carefully, still holding the cubs inside her coat. At the bottom, she found a heavy door. She typed the emergency code into the panel. The door hissed open. Inside, several people were already there. An older man with a security uniform, a young woman with pilot wings on her jacket, a teenage boy with grease-stained hands. They all looked up when Hana entered. "Close the door," the security officer said. His name tag read D. "Quick." Hana stepped inside and the door sealed behind her. The bunker was small, maybe 20 feet across, with metal walls and dim lighting. Supply crates were stacked along one wall. The air smelled stale. "Are you hurt?" the young woman asked. Her name was Minji. "No," Hana said. She looked around at the others. "Is anyone else coming?" Day shook his head. "The colony is lost. We're lucky to be alive." The teenage boy, Junho, was sitting on the floor with his knees pulled to his chest. He looked terrified. "What do we do now?" he asked. "We wait," Day said. "Someone will send help. We just have to survive until then." Hana slowly opened her coat. The two cubs stumbled out, still shaking. They stayed close to her legs, pressing against her for protection. Everyone stared. "What are those?" Minji whispered. "Rukai cubs," Hana said quietly. "Their ship crashed. Their family is dead. The Vral are hunting for them." Day's expression darkened. "The Vral hunt the Rukai for their genetics. They want to breed them as weapons." "Then we don't let them have these children," Hana said firmly. The bunker fell silent. Above them, the colony burned. And in the darkness, 5 humans and 2 alien cubs waited for whatever would come next. 36 hours passed in the bunker. Time moved strangely in the underground darkness. There were no windows, no natural light, only the dull glow of emergency panels and the quiet hum of failing life support systems. Hana could feel the air getting thinner, harder to breathe. The oxygen recyclers were damaged. They had days at most, maybe less. The cubs stayed close to her constantly. They refused to leave her side even for a moment. When she sat, they pressed against her legs. When she stood, they followed her like shadows. The older one seemed to be male. Hana started calling him Tay. The smaller one, probably female, she named Rin. The cubs did not seem to mind the names. They responded to her voice, tilting their heads when she spoke. Day wanted to negotiate with the Vral. He stood near the bunker door, checking his damaged communicator every few minutes. "We could offer them supplies," he said for the 10th time, "or information about the colony's defenses. They might let us live." "They won't," Minji said flatly. She sat against the wall, cleaning her service pistol with a dirty rag. "The Vral don't negotiate with prey. They take what they want and kill the rest." Junho had not spoken much since they entered the bunker. He sat in the corner, staring at nothing. Sometimes his hands shook. He was young, maybe 17. Too young for this kind of horror. Hana divided their food supplies carefully. They had emergency rations, enough for the humans for maybe 4 days. But the cubs needed food too. She opened a protein bar and broke it into pieces. Tay and Rin sniffed the food cautiously before eating. They were hungry but still frightened. "Can they understand us?" Minji asked, watching the cubs. "Some," Hana said. "The Rukai are intelligent. They learn languages quickly, but these are children. They're probably too scared to process much right now." She knelt down next to the cubs and pointed to herself. "Hana," she said slowly. Then she pointed to Tay. "Tay." Then to Rin. "Rin." Tay's ears perked up. He made a sound, soft and trying. "Nah." Hana smiled despite everything. "Yes, good, Hana." Rin tried too. "Nah." Over the next few hours, Hana taught them more words. Simple ones. Water, food, safe, danger. The cubs absorbed everything with surprising speed. Their golden eyes focused intensely on her mouth, watching how she formed sounds. Soon they were repeating short phrases. "You're good with them," Minji observed. "I study alien biology," Hana said. "I've always been better with animals than people." "They're not animals," Day said sharply. "The Rukai are sentient. They have language, culture, technology? I know, Hana said. I didn't mean it that way. A grinding sound echoed from above. Everyone froze. Metal on metal, drilling. They found us, Junho whispered, his voice cracking. Day rushed to a supply crate and pulled out 2 rifles. He tossed one to Minji. We have maybe an hour before they break through. Hana felt the cubs press harder against her legs. They could sense the fear in the bunker. Tay made a low whining sound. Rin's fur stood on end. There's a maintenance tunnel, Junho said suddenly. Everyone turned to look at him. In the back. It leads to the industrial sector. I worked on the ventilation systems last year. The tunnel is small, but we could fit. Why didn't you mention this before? Tay demanded. I forgot, Junho said miserably. I was scared. I just remembered. Day looked at Minji. She nodded. It's better than waiting here to die. They gathered what supplies they could carry. Food, water, medical kit, weapons. The drilling sound grew louder, more insistent. Junho led them to the back wall where a ventilation grate was barely visible behind stacked equipment. He pulled the grate free, revealing a dark tunnel barely 3 feet wide. I'll go first, Junho said. Then the cubs. Then Hana. Minji. Day last. They crawled into the tunnel one by one. The metal walls pressed close. Hana's shoulders scraped against the sides. Behind her, she heard Day cursing as he squeezed his larger frame through the opening. The cubs moved ahead of her, following Junho's light. The tunnel seemed endless. They crawled for what felt like hours, but was probably only 30 minutes. Hana's knees ached. Her hands were scraped raw, but she kept moving. Behind her, she could hear Minji's steady breathing and Day's occasional grunt of effort. Finally, Junho stopped. Here, another grate. Give me a second. Metal screeched as he forced the grate open. Cold air rushed into the tunnel. They emerged into the industrial sector, a vast space filled with machinery and storage containers. Everything was dark and silent. The Vral had not reached this area yet. They found a space between 2 massive cargo containers and collapsed there to rest. Hana checked the cubs. They were panting hard, stressed and exhausted. But something was different. Tay seemed slightly larger than before. His paws looked bigger. His shoulders broader. Is he growing? Minji asked, noticing the same thing. Hana touched Tai's fur gently. His body was warm, almost hot. I think he's maturing. Some species go through rapid growth when exposed to extreme stress. It's an evolutionary adaptation. How fast? Day asked. I don't know, Hana admitted. I've never seen it happen before. Over the next few hours, the change became more obvious. Both Tay and Rin were growing. Their bodies stretched and thickened. Their features became sharper, more defined. But with the growth came something else. Restlessness, aggression. Tai snapped at Junho when he got too close. Rin growled at shadows. They're becoming feral, Day said. Without adult Rukai to guide them, they don't know how to control the change. Hana watched the cubs pacing back and forth. Their movements were jerky, confused. They needed guidance. They needed someone to teach them how to be Rukai adults. But there were no Rukai here. Only humans. She made a decision. Tay, Rin, come here. The cubs turned to look at her. Their eyes were different now. More wild, more dangerous. But they still recognized her voice. Slowly, they approached. Hana sat down cross-legged. Sit, she said firmly. The cubs hesitated. Tay's lip curled, showing teeth. But Hana did not back down. She kept her posture calm and her voice steady. Sit, finally, Tay sat. Rin followed her brother's example. Good, Hana said. She took a deep breath and let it out slowly. Watch me breathe. She demonstrated slow, controlled breathing. In through the nose, out through the mouth. After a moment, the cubs started mimicking her. Their panting slowed. Their bodies relaxed slightly. We're going to survive this, Hana told them quietly. But to survive, you need to learn. You need to control yourselves. Do you understand? Tay made a sound. Understand. Good. Hana looked around the industrial sector. Then your first lesson starts now. Humans are not the strongest species. We're not the fastest. We don't have claws or thick skin or natural weapons. But we survived on Earth because we learned to hunt smarter than everything else. She picked up a piece of metal debris. We make tools. We set traps. We work together. And we never give up. The cubs watched her intently. Their golden eyes followed her every movement. I'm going to teach you how humans hunt, Hana said. And when the Vral come for us, we'll be ready. The industrial sector was freezing. Hana's breath formed clouds in the air as she moved between the massive machines. The heating systems had failed days ago. Now the cold seeped through everything, making her fingers numb and her bones ache. But the cold also gave them an advantage. The Vral came from a hot desert world. They hated the cold. It slowed them down. Tay and Rin were changing rapidly now. Every few hours they grew larger, their bodies stretching and filling out with muscle. By the second day in the industrial sector, they were the size of adult humans. By the third day, they stood taller than Day. Their faces had lengthened into strong muzzles. Their paws had developed into hands with sharp claws. They looked like werewolves from old Earth stories, but they were something else entirely. They were Rukai warriors, but their minds were still young, still forming. Without proper guidance from their own kind, they could lose themselves to instinct and rage. Hana saw it happening. Tay would sometimes stare at nothing, growling at threats only he could see. Rin would pace for hours, unable to settle or rest. They needed an anchor, something to keep them grounded in who they were. Hana became that anchor. She taught them constantly, not just language now, but concepts, strategy, patience, control. She told them stories about Earth, about how humans evolved from weak prey animals into the planet's dominant species. Not through strength or speed, but through thinking and working together. My ancestors hunted animals much bigger than themselves, she explained one night as they huddled around a small fire Junho had built. They would track a mammoth for days following it, never letting it rest. Eventually, the mammoth would collapse from exhaustion. Then the humans would move in. Tay's ears were forward, listening intently. His voice was deeper now, rougher. Humans, weak? In some ways, Hana admitted. But weakness can be strength. We learned to think differently, to see opportunities others missed. She led them through the industrial sector, showing them how to use the environment, how to climb the machinery for high ground, how to use narrow passages that larger enemies could not fit through, how to leave false trails and double back, how to wait in silence for the perfect moment to strike. The cubs absorbed everything like dry earth absorbing water. They practiced constantly, testing their new bodies and new skills. Hana could see their confidence growing, but she also made sure they understood limits. She taught them when to fight and when to run, when to be aggressive and when to be patient. You are strong now, she told them, but strength without wisdom is just violence. Remember that, Rin nodded slowly. Her voice was softer than her brother's, more melodic. We remember, you teach, we learn. Day watched all this with growing unease. He pulled Hana aside one morning while the cubs were exploring a collapsed storage area. They're bonding to you completely, he said quietly. I've read about Rukai pack behavior. They're making you their alpha. I know, Hana said. That's dangerous. You're not Rukai. You don't understand their culture, their instincts. Maybe not, Hana agreed. But I understand survival. And right now that's what matters. Day looked at the cubs, then back at Hana. The Vral are getting closer. I can hear them in the distance. They're sweeping through the sector methodically. They'll find us eventually. Then we need to reach the communications array, Hana said. If we can send a distress signal, the Alliance will come. The array is on the outer ring, Minji said, joining their conversation. That's at least 2 kilometers from here. Through open ground, the Vral will see us. Not if we move at night, Hana suggested. And not if Tay and Rin scout ahead. They planned the route carefully. Yunyo used his knowledge of the station's layout to find the safest path. They would move through the maintenance corridors as much as possible, only crossing open areas when absolutely necessary. Tay and Rin would range ahead, using their enhanced senses to detect Vral patrols before the humans stumbled into them. They waited until darkness fell. Not real darkness since they were on a space station, but the scheduled night cycle when most lights dimmed. Then they moved out. Tay and Rin went first, loping ahead on all fours with frightening speed and silence. Hana followed with Minji, Day, and Junho close behind. They moved through corridors filled with debris and broken equipment. Twice they heard Vral voices and had to hide, pressing themselves into shadows while the aliens passed nearby. They were halfway to the communications array when everything went wrong. A Vral patrol came around a corner without warning. 6 soldiers, heavily armed. They saw the humans immediately and raised their weapons. Day fired first, dropping 1 Vral before the others could react. Then chaos erupted. Gunfire lit up the corridor. Minji dove behind a cargo container and returned fire. Junho screamed and fell, clutching his leg where an energy bolt had burned through his thigh. Hana grabbed him and dragged him behind cover. The Viral were advancing, their weapons devastating at close range. Day fired again and again, but there were too many of them. They were going to be overwhelmed. Then Tay and Rin came back. They moved like shadows, like nightmares. One moment the corridor was empty behind the Viral. The next moment the cubs were there, fully grown and terrifying. Tay hit the first Viral soldier from behind, his claws tearing through armor like paper. Rin took down another, her jaws closing on the soldier's neck. The remaining Viral tried to turn their weapons on the cubs, but they were too slow. Tay and Rin moved with impossible speed, staying close where the energy weapons could not get a clear shot. In less than 30 seconds, all 6 Viral were down. The cubs stood over the bodies, breathing hard. Their fur was matted with blood. Their eyes glowed in the dim light. For a moment, Hana thought they might lose control, might give in to the killing rage she knew was burning inside them. Tay. Rin, she called firmly. To me, the cubs turned. Their eyes focused on her. The wildness in them faded slightly. They left the bodies and came to her side, pressing close like they had when they were small and frightened. Good, Hana said softly. You did good. You protected the pack. Day was staring at the dead Viral with shock. They're incredible, he whispered. They're children, Hana corrected.
Children who are learning how to be warriors. But there was no time to rest.
Junho was badly hurt. The energy burn had gone deep into his leg. Minji wrapped it as best she could, but he could barely walk. Day had to support him as they continued moving. They reached a junction in the corridor. Ahead was a long stretch of open space, a cargo bay that led toward the outer ring. They would be exposed for at least 200 meters. Day checked his rifle. He was almost out of ammunition. We should wait, he said. Find another route. There is no other route, Minji replied. This is the only way to the communications array. They were about to move forward when they heard it. A deep rumbling sound. The walls shook. Dust fell from the ceiling. They're collapsing the sectors, Junho said weakly. They're going to trap us. An explosion echoed from behind them. The way they had come was now blocked by debris. They had no choice. They had to go forward. They started across the cargo bay. Hana helped Junho while Day and Minji covered their flanks. Tay and Rin ranged ahead, their senses alert for any threat. They were halfway across when the lights went out completely. Emergency systems failed. They were in total darkness. Keep moving, Hana said. Stay together. In the darkness, she heard something. A clicking sound. Like claws on metal. The Viral were coming. They reached the communications array just as the sun was setting. Not a real sun, but the station's light cycle dimming to simulate evening. The array was a tall structure on the outer ring of Baekdu Station, open to the planet's atmosphere through a massive dome of reinforced glass. Through the glass, Hana could see the frozen wasteland below, endless ice stretching to the horizon. Tai and Rin were fully mature now. They stood nearly 7 feet tall, their bodies covered in thick gray fur marked with darker stripes. They moved with deadly grace, every motion controlled and purposeful. But when they looked at Hana, their golden eyes still held that same trust, that same loyalty she had seen when they were cubs hiding under her coat. Day had not made it. In the cargo bay, a Viral soldier had come from the darkness. Day had pushed Junho out of the way and taken the blast meant for the boy. His last words were telling them to run. Hana had wanted to stay to help him, but Minji grabbed her arm and pulled her away. They could hear Day's rifle firing behind them as they fled. Then an explosion. Then silence. Now it was just the 4 of them. Hana, Minji, Junho, and the cubs. Junho's leg was getting worse. The burn was infected. He could barely walk even with support. They had left him in a safe corner of the array structure, while Hana and Minji worked on the communications console. The transmitter is still functional, Minji said, her hands moving quickly over the controls. But the power is low. We'll only get one chance at this. Will it reach the Alliance? Hana asked. If we boost the signal, yes. But that will light us up like a beacon. Every Viral ship in orbit will know exactly where we are. Do it, Hana said. We're out of options. Minji nodded and entered the command sequence. The console hummed to life. Lights flickered on across the array. A moment later, the distress signal began broadcasting. Hana recorded a message, keeping it simple. Baekdu Station was under attack. Civilians needed immediate evacuation. Viral forces were hostile and numerous. The signal launched into space. Done, Minji said. Now we just have to hope someone hears it. The hope lasted exactly 40 seconds. Alarms blared across the array. Warning lights flashed red. Through the dome, Hana saw shapes moving in the sky. Vral ships changing their orbit, turning toward the station. Toward them. They detected the signal, Minji said. They're coming. Energy weapons fired from the ships. Massive bolts of superheated plasma that struck the station's outer ring. The structure shook violently. Hana grabbed the console to keep from falling. Another hit. Closer. The dome above them cracked, spiderwebs spreading across the glass. We need to move, Hana shouted over the noise. They ran for the exit, but another impact threw them to the floor. The dome shattered. Freezing wind rushed in. Debris fell like rain. Hana looked up and saw a massive section of the array collapsing. It was falling directly toward Minji. Look out. Hana screamed. Minji turned, but there was no time to run. The debris was too close, too fast. Hana saw her friend's eyes widen with the realization that she was about to die. Then Minji did something unexpected. She smiled. A small, sad smile, and she hit the console one last time, confirming the transmission. The debris crushed her. Hana screamed. She tried to move toward the wreckage, but Tae grabbed her around the waist and pulled her back. Another section was falling. They had to get out. Rin helped Junho to his feet, supporting his weight effortlessly. They fled through a side corridor as the communications array collapsed behind them. They emerged onto an open platform. Cold wind cut through Hana's clothes. Her ears were ringing. Her eyes burned with tears that froze on her cheeks. Tae was dead. Minji was dead. Soon they would all be dead. Then she heard them coming. Vral soldiers, dozens of them, approaching from all sides. They had been waiting. This had been a trap. Let the humans send their signal. Let the Alliance know what happened here. Then kill everyone so no one could escape to tell the full story. The Vral commander emerged from the group. He was larger than the others, his scales darker, almost black. He carried no weapon. He did not need one. His size and strength were weapon enough. Humans, he said in surprisingly good English. You have caused much trouble. You destroyed my soldiers. You corrupted the Rukai cubs. For this you will die slowly. His name was Rekka. Hana had heard the other Vral say it over their communications. He was the one who ordered the attack on Baekdu Station, the one who wanted the cubs. Tae and Rin moved to stand between Hana and the Vral soldiers. Their hackles were raised. Low growls rumbled from their chests. But they were outnumbered 20-1. Even with their strength and speed, they could not win this fight. Your pets cannot save you, Rekka said mockingly. They are impressive, yes. We will take them after you are dead. We will break them, make them forget you. Train them to serve the Vral as they should have from the beginning. Something cold and hard settled in Hana's chest. Not fear, not anymore. She had been afraid when the Vral first attacked. Afraid in the bunker. Afraid in the industrial sector. But now, standing here with the wind howling around her and her friends dead, she found she was not afraid. She was angry. She stepped forward, standing beside Tae and Rin. The cubs looked at her, confused. She was so small compared to them now. So fragile. What could she possibly do? You made a mistake, Hana said to Rekka. Her voice was steady. You think strength is about size, about weapons, about who can hit harder, but that's not what made humans dangerous. That's not what makes us apex predators, Rekka laughed. You are no predator, human. You are prey. We're persistence hunters, Hana continued. We don't give up, ever. You can kill me. You can kill all of us. But that signal is already out there. The Alliance knows you're here. They know what you did. And they're coming. They will arrive too late, Rekka said. You will be dead. The cubs will be ours. This station will be destroyed. There will be no evidence of what happened here. Hana smiled. It was not a nice smile. You really don't understand, do you? You've been hunting us this whole time, chasing us through the station, thinking you were predators and we were prey. But that's not what happened. We weren't running from you. We were leading you. Rekka's expression changed. Just slightly. A flicker of doubt. Tae, Hana said quietly. Rin, show them what I taught you. The cubs moved. They did not charge forward blindly. They did not roar or try to intimidate their enemies. They simply disappeared into the shadows of the platform, moving with a silence that seemed impossible for creatures their size. The Vral soldiers looked around nervously. They raised their weapons, trying to track the cubs, but Tae and Rin were already behind them, already among them. The first soldier went down without a sound. dragged into darkness. Then another. Then 3 more. Rekka shouted orders in his own language. The soldiers formed a defensive circle, firing wildly into the shadows. But they were shooting at ghosts. Tay and Rin used every trick Hana had taught them. They used the environment, the poor lighting, the wind and noise to mask their movements. They struck from unexpected angles and vanished before anyone could react. Hana watched it happen with a strange sense of calm. This was what she had taught them. Not just how to fight, but how to think, how to turn disadvantages into advantages, how to make the enemy afraid. The Vrall were afraid now. She could see it in their movements, hear it in their voices. They were the hunters, but suddenly they felt like prey. Rekka roared in fury and charged toward Hana. If he could not have the cubs, he would kill the one they protected. But he never reached her. Tay and Rin appeared from both sides, hitting him simultaneously with devastating force. The commander went down hard. The remaining Vrall soldiers broke and ran. They abandoned their weapons and fled into the station. Tay and Rin did not pursue them. They returned to Hana's side, breathing hard but unhurt. In the distance, Hana heard something. A new sound cutting through the wind. She looked up and saw them. Alliance ships dropping from orbit, fast attack craft and troop transports. The cavalry had arrived. The Vrall fleet was already retreating, their ships accelerating away from the planet. They knew they could not win this fight. Baekdu Station was lost to them. Hana sank to her knees. The adrenaline that had kept her moving drained away all at once. She felt exhausted, broken, but alive. Somehow, impossibly, alive. Tay and Rin pressed close to her, their warmth cutting through the freezing wind. Junyo hobbled over and collapsed next to them. They sat together in the ruins of the communications array and waited for rescue to arrive. The rescue ships landed 20 minutes later. Medical teams rushed out with stretchers and emergency equipment. Soldiers secured the area, weapons ready for any remaining Vrall. But the Vrall were gone. They had fled into the deepest parts of the station or escaped to their ships. The battle for Baekdu Station was over. Hana watched it all from a distance, still sitting on the cold metal platform with Tai and Rin beside her. A medic approached carefully, clearly nervous about the 2 massive Rukai. "Ma'am, you need medical attention. Please come with me." "I'm fine," Hana said. Her voice sounded strange to her own ears. Distant, like it belonged to someone else. "You're in shock," the medic said gently, "and you have several injuries. Please let us help you." Junho was already being carried to one of the medical ships. He was unconscious, his infected leg finally too much for his body to handle. But the medic said he would survive. That was something, at least. One person she had managed to save. Hana finally stood. Her legs felt weak. Tay immediately moved to support her, offering his arm. She leaned against him, grateful for his solid presence. Rin stayed close on her other side, watchful and protective. They walked toward the rescue ships together. Soldiers stared at them as they passed. Some looked afraid. Others looked amazed. Hana heard whispers. "Are those the cubs? They're huge. Did they really kill all those Vrall?" The ship took them to the Alliance medical station in orbit. Hana was examined, treated for minor injuries and exhaustion, and given a private room to rest. Tay and Rin refused to leave her side. The medical staff tried to separate them, insisting the cubs needed their own examination, but the Rukai would not budge. Finally, the doctors gave up and examined them in Hana's room while she slept. She woke 12 hours later to find Tai and Rin curled up on the floor beside her bed. They looked so much like the frightened cubs she had found in the crashed ship, despite their size. In sleep, the fierce warriors became children again. A woman in an Alliance uniform was sitting in a chair by the door. She stood when Hana sat up. "Ms. Hana, I'm Commander Yuna with Alliance Intelligence. I need to ask you some questions about what happened on Baekdu Station." "I need to ask you something first," Hana said. "The other survivors, D and Minji, their bodies. Can they be recovered?" Yuna's expression softened. "We're doing everything we can. The station is badly damaged, but we will find them. You have my word." Hana nodded, feeling tears threatening again. She pushed them down. There would be time to grieve later. "What do you want to know?" The interview lasted 2 hours. Hana told Commander Yuna everything, how she found the cubs, how they survived in the bunker in the industrial sector, how she taught them to fight and control their transformation, how Day and Minji died protecting others, how they sent the distress signal that saved them all. Yuna listened carefully, taking notes. When Hana finished, the commander sat back with a thoughtful expression. The Vral are claiming that you stole valuable specimens. They want the cubs returned to them. No, Hana said immediately. Absolutely not. I agree, Yuna said. The Alliance has already rejected their claim. Tay and Rin are not property. They're sentient beings with rights under Alliance law. But this has created a diplomatic situation. The Rukai government is involved now. They want to meet you. 3 days later, Hana stood in a conference room aboard the Alliance flagship. Across from her were 4 adult Rukai, representatives from their homeworld. They were impressive, even more so than Tay and Rin. Their fur was marked with elaborate patterns. They wore formal robes that indicated high rank. The eldest spoke first. Her name was Elder Hay. We have heard what you did for our children. You saved them when their family was killed. You protected them from the Vral. You guided them through their transformation. I only did what anyone would do, Hana said quietly. No, Elder Hay said firmly. What you did was extraordinary. Rukai young who transform without guidance usually go mad. They become feral and dangerous. They must be hunted down for the safety of others. But Tay and Rin are whole. They are sane. Because of you. Another Rukai, a male named Elder Quan, stepped forward. You are not Rukai. You do not know our ways or our traditions. Yet you became pack mother to these cubs. You taught them to hunt, to think, to control themselves. How? I taught them what I know, Hana said. About humans. About survival. About protecting those weaker than yourself. You taught them to be warriors, Elder Hay said, but warriors with honor, with discipline. The Vral soldiers we captured have been telling strange stories. They say your cubs fight like ghosts, like nothing they have ever seen before. They use tactics the Rukai do not teach. Human tactics, Hana explained. We don't have the natural weapons or strength that other species have. So we learned to fight smarter, to use the environment, to be patient, to never give up. The Rukai elders exchanged glances. They seemed to be having a silent conversation. Finally, Elder Hay spoke again. The Rukai pack bond is sacred. Once formed, it cannot be broken. Tay and Rin see you as their alpha, their mother. They will not accept another. I understand, Hana said. She had been afraid of this. The Rukai would want to take Tai and Rin back to their homeworld, to be raised properly by their own people. And she would have to let them go no matter how much it hurt. No, Elder Hay said. I do not think you do understand. She stepped closer to Hana, her golden eyes intense. We wish to offer you a place in our clan, to formally adopt you as Rukai. This has never been done before. No alien has ever been made part of a Rukai family. But these are unusual circumstances. You have earned this honor through your actions. Hana stared at her. You want to adopt me? We want to recognize what already exists, Elder Quan said. You are pack mother to Tay and Rin. You are family. The Rukai do not abandon family. What would that mean? Hana asked. If I accepted? You would come to our homeworld, Elder Hay explained. You would learn our ways. You would be Rukai in all ways that matter, even though you are human. And Tay and Rin would stay with you. They need their pack mother. And perhaps you need them too. Hana thought about her old life, her job as a xenobiologist, her small apartment, her quiet, orderly existence studying alien life from a safe distance. That life was gone now. Baekdu Station was destroyed. Most of her colleagues were dead. She had nothing to go back to. But she had Tay and Rin, 2 impossible children who had survived the unthinkable, who had learned to be warriors and stayed sane because of her guidance, who looked at her with absolute trust and love. Yes, Hana said. I accept. The formal adoption ceremony happened 1 week later. It was held on the Rukai homeworld, a planet of vast forests and ancient mountains. Hundreds of Rukai gathered to witness this historic event. Hana wore traditional robes marked with the symbols of her new clan. Tay and Rin stood beside her, proud and tall. Elder Hay spoke the old words, the ritual phrases that had been used for thousands of years to welcome new pack members. But she added something at the end, something not in the traditional ceremony. Let it be known that Hana taught our young to survive. She showed them the ways of human hunters. She gave them strength when they were weak, wisdom when they were confused, and love when they were alone. From this day forward, she is Rukai, she is pack, she is family. The gathered Rukai howled their approval. a sound that echoed across the mountains. Tay and Rin joined them, their voices strong and clear, and Hana, standing between them, felt something she had not felt since the Vral attacked. She felt at home. Months passed. Hana learned the Rukai language properly. She studied their culture and history. She was not good at some things, like hunting in the traditional way or navigating by scent, but she brought her own knowledge, her own perspective. Young Rukai, who were about to undergo transformation, started seeking her out, asking her to teach them the human ways of fighting and thinking. Tay and Rin became legends among their people, the cubs who were raised by a human, the warriors who fought with tactics no Rukai had ever seen before. But they never forgot where they came from. Every morning at dawn, they would find Hana and press close to her sides, just like they did when they were small and frightened and hiding under her coat. One evening, as the sun set over the Rukai homeworld, Hana sat on a cliff overlooking the forest. Tay and Rin sat beside her, watching the sky turn orange and purple. They were quiet, content, at peace. "Do you remember Baekdu Station?" Hana asked them. "Every day," Tay said. His English was perfect now. "We remember being afraid. We remember the Vral. We remember Day and Minji who died protecting us. We remember you," Rin added softly, "finding us in the crashed ship, hiding us under your coat, teaching us to survive." "You taught us something important," Tay said. "Being strong is not just about size or claws or weapons. It is about never giving up. About protecting those who cannot protect themselves. About being smart and patient and brave." "Those are human lessons," Hana said. "Yes," Rin agreed. "And now they are Rukai lessons too, because you gave them to us, and we will pass them on to others." They sat together in comfortable silence as darkness fell. Somewhere in the forest below, young Rukai were training, learning the new ways of hunting that combined traditional Rukai strength with human strategy. The galaxy was changing. The Vral had learned that attacking Alliance worlds had consequences. The Rukai had learned that strength came in many forms, and Hana had learned that family was not about species or blood. It was about who stood beside you when everything fell apart. Who you protected when they were weak. Who you taught when they needed to learn. At dawn, the cubs had hidden under her coat. By dusk, they led the pursuit. But the real story was everything that happened in between. The bonds formed. The lessons learned. The family created from survivors of tragedy. That was the story Hana would tell. Not to the Alliance historians who wanted to document what happened at Baekdu Station, but to the young Rukai who asked her how two frightened cubs became legendary warriors. She would tell them the truth. That it was not magic or destiny. It was simply one human doing what humans do best. Adapting, teaching, surviving, and never ever giving up on those who needed her. The end of one story, the beginning of another, and in the gathering darkness, three figures sat together on a cliff watching the stars come out one by one. Human and Rukai, pack mother and cubs, family.